JP's a production.
Hey, hey, hey. It's okay. Hey, hey. Oh yeah, shake body. Oh yeah, move body. Make you ring alarm. Oh yeah, shake body. Them girls just they feel me now. Cause I get some money, then they feel me now.
Greetings, programmers. Welcome to Pseudocode. Now, what is pseudocode? The word pseudo is a prefix. Prefix means it comes at the front of the word. Pseudo means false. So a pseudonym, nym means name, means false name. People who write books normally use a lot of pseudonyms. They don't use their real names. They make up names and use because it sounds more catchy. Okay. Now pseudocode, I want you to understand, is not a programming language. A programming language would be, for the scope of CSEC, HTML, Pascal, C or C++. For the scope of CSEC, those are the programming languages. You have other programming languages, JavaScript, COBOL, and a lot of others, which we will not be using. We'll only be focusing on the ones for CSEC. But before you can learn the programming language, you must first learn some key concepts. And these concepts are taught through the use of pseudocode. If you understand the construct of pseudocode, then you understand the construct of writing in any language. The only thing that would change would be the syntax. The syntax might be different, but the semantics are the same in terms of the structure. How you write it would be in the same format. Alright. Now, to write pseudocode, we first need to know some keywords. Now, keywords are just the words that orient your mind as to how the program is structured, what each sentence in the program does. If you refer to your reference notes, pseudocode notes, it will give you a more in-depth definition of these words. These are very shallow definitions. The aim here is to get you to write the pseudocode. So, the first one, or the first two we'll be focusing on will be the read and the print. The read and the print keywords are the ones we'll be focusing on right now. Okay, so remember that pseudocode is not a real programming language. Please bear in mind the software or program used to test programs that you write is called a compiler. In the case of HTML, it is called an editor. Alright. So, for example, let's get down into the nitty-gritty. The read is used to what? To take in responses or data entered into the computer. So let's use the example of the phone. When you go on the phone, the first thing the phone asks you for is the password. If it's an ATM, the first thing it asks you for is for your card. And then next it asks you for your PIN number. Now the programmer has to think like this. He has to think, what does he want the user to understand from the message? And what does he want the user to do? So he writes his code in such a way that's so logical. Please refer to the video on problem solving. As I was saying, the programmer is interested in organizing the program in such a way that the user will find it easy to understand. If you go back to the definition of the word algorithm in your pseudocode notes reference, it will tell you that the algorithm is what? Step-by-step process. Now so When the ATM asks you to enter your card, that's the first step. Then it asks you to enter your PIN, that's the second step. Then it asks you if it's a savings account or a checking account or a current account. That's another step. It's in the same way you need to think when you're writing the program. So if the program is asking you to enter a number, the first thing you have to do is ask the user for the number. Makes sense, right? Logical, sequential steps. That's all. That's it. Okay. Moving on. The next one is the print keyword. And the print, all it does is just it presents questions to the user or presents a result to the user. So if you write the pseudocode or the program to add two numbers, you would use the print keyword to present this to the user. Of course, with each different program, the keyword for read would be different from the keyword for print. In the case of Pascal, it might be write. In the case of C++, it may just in the case of C++, it may just be print. Each program requires a different keyword, but the main structure still remains the same. You have to ask the user for something and then accept what the user gives you. And once you understand that key concept, then you're on your way to becoming a full-fledged programmer. Alright. Example 2. Write a pseudocode that what? Asks the user for two numbers and prints the numbers to the screen. Okay. Now I want you to ask yourself a question. What are you asking the user for? Okay. This is how I want you to interpret questions when you read them. What is the program supposed to do? Everybody catch that? Alright. So therefore, when you get a pseudocode question, you need to ask yourself these questions. First of all, what is the user supposed to do? And then what is the program supposed to do? So if it says the program is supposed to add, and you don't write that anything is adding, then you don't finish the program yet. You have not completed the task as yet. Let's move on. We always put start program at the beginning of the pseudocode, and we always end with end program at the end of the pseudocode. Think of it as a sandwich. Yes, me know, me talk about food again. But think of it as a sandwich. The end program is the bottom slice, the start program is the top slice. And by the way, you get marks deducted if you leave them off. So please ensure that you put them there. Okay. Now we need to talk about variables. For in-depth understanding of variables, please refer to your pseudocode notes. Reference material is there. It is to give you more in detail knowledge. This is just to help you orient your mind to think like a programmer, because you are programmers. We're all programmers. First thing you wake up in the morning, you program your day. You get up, you're going to go in the bathroom, wash your face, wash out your mouth. Then you're going to eat something. Some people eat, then they wash them face and their mouth. Some people never have to brush them teeth when they come to school same way. Whatever the case may be, you program out your day. You know what clothes you're going to wear. You know who you want to talk to. You know what the plan is for the day. And that's all the pseudocode is, a plan. A variable. Now think of a variable, please, as a container. It holds whatever the user puts in. You must create a variable for almost everything that the user puts in pseudocode. If we were talking about a different programming language, then I could say, yes, you create a variable for everything. However, just for the sake of pseudocode, we only create variables for integers. What is an integer? If you ask your math teacher, they will tell you an integer is any negative or positive number including 0. Easy, right? Any negative or positive number including 0. That's all integers are. So we only create variables to hold integers in pseudocode. We don't create variables to hold words or like names of places or colors or anything like that. Only integers. Okay. Now, this arrow here is what we call initialization. The initialization of the variable means that you're putting something in the variable. What am I putting in the variable? I'm putting in a 0 in the variable, which means nothing is in there, right? Because if I put another number in there, it's going to replace whatever is in there. So if the user puts in 5, it's going to replace the 0 with the 5. If the user puts in 20, it's going to replace the 0 with the 20. Whatever is there is going to overwrite it. Now, not in all cases the variable is initialized to 0. Sometimes the variable may be initialized to a number. Suppose you want to test an age, and the age is specific. So you would initialize the variable age to, let's say 18 years old. You would put 18 there because you want to test whatever the user puts in against the integer 18. Simple concept, very straightforward. The same thing applies here. Here we have our second variable. And this variable is called num2. Now, I call it num1 and I call it num2. However, you have the discretion to name it anything you want to name it. You could write out the entire number and call it number 1. You could write out the entire word, number, and then put 2 behind it. It's up to you how you want to do it. And by the way, the start program does not have to be all caps. I put it in all caps just to highlight it, just to show that it's necessary to be there. You can't leave it off. It must be there. Alright, let's continue. We are initializing number 2 to what? 0. So we initialize num2 to 0. That means that 0 is inside of num2. Okay. Now we're getting down into it now. So I have started my program. Most programming languages come with some form of start program. It's just that the semantics might be different. But it comes with some kind of heading at the top to let you know that this is where it begins. Okay? And we have declared and initialized our variables. Now declaration just means that you write it. Declarations are usually made at the top. We don't normally declare variables within the program. We usually declare variables at the top. That's the structure. That's the semantics. We always do that. Alright, so there's always something there to indicate that the program is starting, and there are always variables declared at the top. Alright, and we said the arrow represents the initialization, and these variables are both initialized to 0. Okay, please use up the words that way you know how to use them and you remember what they mean. Don't just park them in your brain somewhere or in your notes. Please remember them. Let's start now with print. Alright, so remember our definition of our purpose of print. Print is used to ask the user for something or to give a result. What did the question say? The question said write a pseudocode that asks for 2 numbers, right? So print, notice I put it in red. You don't have to put it in red. I just put it in red to highlight it. Notice the syntax of the program. We use what? Double quotes. And by the way, whatever is inside the double quotes is all the user sees. The user would not see start program. They would not see the variables. They would not see print. They would not see the double quotes. All they would see is please enter your first number. That's all they would see. When you go to the ATM, all you see is what? Please what? Enter your ATM card. Not so. And then what? When you put in the card, it reads the card. Not true. It reads the card and it stores whatever information is on the card in a variable. Then what? Then it asks you for the password or the PIN number. Okay. But this is not the ATM. This is a pseudocode that wants you to do what? Ask for 2 numbers and enter 2 numbers. So we go down here, here's print again. And what is it asking for? It is asking you to enter your second number. Once again, we read in the second number, we store it in the variable called num2. So the variable called num1 has in the first number. We don't know what number the person entered. The person could have entered 1,000. The person could have entered 1,000,000, or they could have entered 2. Who knows? But we write it in such a way that any number the person enters goes into the variable. Now, once you've asked for the second number and you've written the pseudocode to accept the second number, now we do the last part of the question, which says what? Print. What are we printing? We're giving the user the results. The numbers you have entered are, and please notice there's a comma here. See that? Then we say what? Num1. So whatever is in num1 variable will be printed at the end of this statement. So if the person put 2 there, it would be a 2 here on the screen. It would not be num1 they would see 2. Then there's what? Another comma. This is the syntax now, you know. There's another comma. Then there's what? Num2. So whatever number the person put in num2 would be displayed here. Then we do what? We end the program. So look, it's a general thing. We don't know what number the user might enter, but we write it in such a way so that we can accept any number, store it in the first variable, accept any number, store it in the second variable, and then we show back the results of what the person entered on the screen. So think of the calculator. When you press the number 3 button, it shows you number 3. Most of you don't know that calculators use software, not true? And when you press the next number, it stores it in the second variable called num2. Simple, practical example. The same thing with your phone. If you're using the calculator and you're adding 2 numbers, or you're subtracting 2 numbers, or you're multiplying 2 numbers, it's the same concept. It stores the first number in the variable. Then it stores the second number, the other variable, another variable. And then it carries out the operation that you put there. But I'm jumping the gun. The last thing we put is what? End program. Remember, bottom slice, top slice. Okay. And if you don't put them on my test, you don't get marks. You lose marks for them, by the way. Because the question will be based on marks of everything that you write. No, you did not have to do it this way. You did not have to write, print the numbers you have entered are, and then put num1, and then put a comma, and then put num2. You could have written this again. The number you have written, or the first number you have written is, and then put num2 with the comma in front of it. Print the second number you have entered is, and then put the comma with the print with the num2 behind it. You could have written it that way as well. So you have variations that you could do. It's not one way necessarily that you can write the pseudocode. Alright? Alright. As the song says, let's broke it down. For those of you who still don't get what I'm talking about, you should be aware that start program always start the pseudocode. Then we have what? Our 2 variables there. Everybody can see our 2 variables being declared. Then we have the reader will only see what? The black text, which is this part of what is there. Then we have what is used to store, and I put them in color so you know them different. The user